It starts so quietly that no one notices. You're 7 years old staring into the eyes of a parent who's slowly crumbling. Maybe it's addiction. Maybe it's rage. Maybe it's the kind of silence that feels heavier than shouting. You don't have words for it, but something ancient stirs inside you. If I don't hold everything together, everything will fall apart. And that's the moment a child begins to vanish, not in body but in spirit. You learn to smile on command, to stay quiet when the air turns thick, to sense moods before anyone speaks. You become the emotional compass of the family, reading storms before they form. Adults call you mature. They praise your calmness, your composure, your strength. But they never ask the real question: what did it cost you to be so composed? This is how emotional parentification begins. When a child becomes the caretaker, the therapist, the peacekeeper. You learn to keep others safe but never yourself. You build walls, call them boundaries, and start living inside a mask that feels like home. Your nervous system becomes a radar for chaos. You start believing love is earned through control and peacekeeping. Your needs? Dangerous. Their needs? Sacred. So you vanish emotionally, quietly, efficiently. Years later, you'll call it responsibility, but it started as survival. Rehook. What happens when the child who disappeared never really comes back? When a child becomes responsible for adult emotions, something inside the brain rewires. Psychologists call it parentification. But in simpler terms, it's emotional exile. You become the watchtower, always scanning for danger, always anticipating collapse. You don't relax. You monitor. You don't play. You perform. Every smile is strategic. Every silence is safety. You mistake peace for perfection because the smallest mistake once cost you love. And so you grow into a hypervigilant adult and someone who can sense tension in a room before words are even spoken. You're the therapist friend, the problem solver, the strong one. People rely on you and it feels good, but it's not love. It's obligation, because deep down the child in you never stopped asking, why didn't anyone protect me? You may not realize it, but that constant alertness is your nervous system stuck in survival mode. You can't rest because rest feels unsafe. You can't trust because trust once hurt. You can't be held because no one ever showed you how. The world sees confidence, but inside it's exhaustion wearing armor. Rehook. But what happens when that armor becomes too heavy to carry? As you grow older, the survival traits turn into personality labels. You're so independent. You're so strong. You always have it together. But they don't see the truth. Strength was never a choice, and it was a shield. You become hyper-independent. You reject help, confuse control with safety, and mistake exhaustion for worth. Rest feels suspicious, joy feels fleeting. Love feels like a debt you'll have to repay. You work harder, care deeper, love silently, all to avoid the terror of being a burden. You overfunction in relationships, fix everyone's emotions, and call it loyalty. Yet in quiet moments, you feel hollow, like you've built an entire identity out of survival instincts. That's the hidden grief you never got to just be. To cry, to play, to exist without purpose. Your childhood became a full-time job, and you've never been off the clock. Rehook. But if strength isn't who you are, then who are you beneath it all? Healing begins not with fixing, but with witnessing. The first step isn't to move on. It's to stop. Gaslighting yourself with lines like, it wasn't that bad. I turned out fine. Fine is a mask too. True healing starts when you finally turn toward the part of you that never got to grow up, the forgotten child. You ask them, what did you need that you never received? And slowly answers surface, safety, softness, play, someone who simply asked, how are you really? This is the essence of shadow work. Not polishing your pain, but sitting with it. You begin to feel the grief that once froze you. You mourn the birthdays no one celebrated, the tenderness you had to fake, the innocence traded for survival. That grief is not weakness. It's release, because what was once suppressed is finally allowed to breathe. Rehook. So how do you live differently when the past no longer defines your worth? You can't rewrite your childhood, but you can reparent yourself. You can become the safe presence you always needed. It starts with gentleness, not grand healing rituals, but small acts of permission. Resting without guilt, saying no without apology, letting yourself need others without shame. For those who grew up too fast, softness feels foreign at first. But it's not weakness, it's the return of wholeness. You stop seeking parents in your partners. You stop performing love. You stop mistaking chaos for connection. As Carl Jung said, There is no coming to consciousness without pain. To heal is to feel, to remember, to hold your younger self and whisper, "You didn't deserve that. You're safe now. You never had a real childhood, but you still have a future. And this time it's yours to write, slowly, gently, and truthfully."